The bear hunt I took in 1967, just 2 weeks before I left Alaska. I extended as long as I could up there, and they wouldn't let me extend any longer. This is the harbor there at Kodiak, where the boats, fishing boats and things take off, and also where this Grumman goose that we hired to take us out to our hunting area. There was 4 of us, so with all our gear, we had like 18 bags of gear that we had to hire a goose. We usually hired a widgeon, but this time we hired a goose. This is the old Russian church there in Kodiak. This is back behind a friend of mine's house that I had down there at Kodiak, and we stayed with him over the night. He took us out, let us buy a few things, and then we took us to the airport, or down to the wharf there, and where we got on the boat. We spent a couple of days there waiting for him to take us out, so it was, we had a lot of time to do some sightseeing. This is the town of Kodiak. That's the main store there, and they had mainly dirt roads down there in Kodiak, even in town. This is the boat harbor with all the fishing boats all tied up, and it's a pretty area, really a pretty area. And this is in May, so we're there just trying to get the first bears that come out of hibernation. There's a boat over there, the plane over there that had to take us out. This is my buddy Chet. He's over there waving at me. And this is the Kodiak Hotel. It's got a big old stuffed bear out there in front of it. This is the seagull there diving for fish and stuff and eating trash. This is one of king crab they had in an aquarium there that we saw, and it's a beautiful, beautiful big old king crab, and some starfish. This is his claws and his head and his mouth. Like I say, we had a lot of time for sightseeing, and this is getting ready to get on the plane and go out. And we're loading all our gear up there, and people are loading up and getting us ready to go. And this is our pilot, and Chet sitting up front, and me and Cliff and John sitting in the back. Here we are, him running up the engine, getting ready to taxi down this ramp here into the ocean. Once we get out in the harbor there, he'll take off and from the water. And it's a pretty neat outfit. These Grumman goose are old surplus airplanes but they have fixed them up so they got them flying and everything, and they're one of the few float planes that you can get out there and hire. Everything else is on pontoons, like the Cessna 185 and the Cessna 175. It's on pontoons. Here we are taxiing out there to get ready to take off. Had this taken from the shore from a friend of mine, of us taking off, heading out to hunt for 10 days. Flying across the terrain there, you can see that the snow isn't melted on the north sides of the hills, and up about 1,000 feet it's melted, but not down low. This is going through one of the little villages there. Here he is pulled up on the shore, and we're unloading all our gear. And this was a bay out on the southeast corner or southwest corner of Kodiak. There he is going back in, heading back to town, and he'll come pick us up in 10 days. So this is kind of leaving you alone out here. You're all by yourself out in the wilderness. And I mean, this is really wilderness. There was an old cabin there and an old village that had been ruined during the earthquake. So we stayed in that cabin, and being the roof leaked so bad, we set up a tent right inside the cabin there so it wouldn't rain on us at night. And here's an eagle that had a nest right up there close there. And every time we'd walk up through there, he'd try to get us. Here's Chet with Cliff with his first bear. He killed a pretty nice 9-foot bear. And this is on the first day of the hunt. He just happened up on him and shot him with his 7mm and killed him. This is the third day, and me and John found this little bear down there below us. And so we went down there to see him, and John shot him. But he didn't kill him, and John was over to my left, and I was hiding in these weeds here, watching the bear and taking movies. But the bear started to get up. Maybe I better not just sit here and watch him. If he gets up, when they get up, they're pretty strong animals. And I didn't want him to make it over to where I was at, because I was the nearest cover that he would run to. And there he is. He's wounded, but he's not dead. And I shipped all my guns, and the only gun I had was my 270. That's my old 270 laying there. So I shot the bear with the 270. John had shot him with his Norma Magnum, and hadn't quite killed him. But here, skinning him out. When you skin these bears out, they almost look human with the way they are. And then being we don't eat any of the meat or anything, all we shoot them for is the hide. So we skin the hide off of them and cut the head off, and leave the meat out there to try to bring in other bears. So the bears will come in, and the ravens will eat it, and the eagles will eat it, and the bears will come in, smell it, and come in. They'll smell the blood, and they'll come in and actually eat their buddy there. This is Cliff's wife's name was Josie, and she had a weak stomach, so we filmed this to kind of show her what it looked like on the inside of a bear. And we split the guts there so there'd be a lot of smell for the bear to come in. That's our tent inside that old cabin there. And the cabin had been ruined by the earthquake, but it still had a floor and a roof, and so we stayed in there. This is our two bear cells. John shot the small bear, and Cliff shot the big one. This is one of the eagles there that had a nest real close by, and every time we saw him, he would try to scare us off by swooping down at us. I shot a small bear on my first Kodiak hunt back in '64, and I was running. If I couldn't find a 10-foot bear, I wasn't going to shoot one. Here I am up on the mountain, glassing all the areas and trying to find another bear so that we can shoot him. We saw a lot of bear, but they were so far off that we couldn't hardly get to them. And this is Kaguiak, is what the name of this bay was. And there were some scientists out there studying the king crab, and they were diving down and counting how many king crabs had mates and were mating. And the ones that didn't have any mates, they were bringing some of them up to the top. And so they were out in this bay, and we saw them coming in with a boat one day. We went down and talked to them. Here I am again, glassing the hills, looking for bear. This is their boat where they had out there where they were studying king crab. They were diving down and counting how many had mating pairs. This is a sea otter there that was playing around the area there over where we were hunting. There were a lot of animals there, foxes and sea otters and otters. This was a regular otter, I think. This is the guys coming in that were diving for those crabs, and they gave us a boat ride back to camp, me and John, and they had a bunch of crabs in there, and they said if you wanted 4, they'd give us 4 crabs. So they gave us 4 of these big old crabs. We tied strings to them and let them walk back out in the water, played around with them for a while, and then we had a big crab feed. We boiled them all up, fixed some butter and some garlic, and they really made some good food. This is playing with them, and the only thing you gotta watch is those big claws that they don't get a hold of you, because they'll pinch you all pretty bad with those. Here's all the guys playing with the crabs. We kept them for a couple of days before we had a big crab cookout, and boiled them all up. And king crab is my favorite seafood in the world, and these were as fresh as you're ever going to get them. That's to keep them out there. This is the old cabin we stayed in, and we'd get up on the roof there and glass for bears. And there was a very big wood pile out there. This is part of the village that was destroyed during the '64 earthquake, and had been abandoned because most of the buildings had flattened them, just like this house. So here, there were still pictures and stuff on there on the walls and stuff in those houses. The people just up and abandoned the whole village. There's one of the houses that was still up. This is up on the roof of that thing, looking, glassing for bear. Smoking my old cigar there. This is then again one of the eagles there that flew around and gave us a hard time. This is the valley there that we were camped in. We were camped way down along the shore, and we go all the way around this bay, and that was our cabin way back there. This is Chet and me hunting on one of the last days we were there. Me and Chet went out looking. He hadn't got a bear, and neither had I. So the other two were staying in camp and taking it easy while we were out looking for bear. Kodiak is a beautiful, beautiful place. But you gotta watch the tides, and you gotta watch what you're doing around the ocean. And here we are, wading across some of the tide flats there, and getting on the other side, and going up on this hill and glassing for bear. And there was we only had one pair of hip boots, so I'd stop and take them and throw them back to Chet. He'd come wading across. Here's the eagle's nest that we found up there on the hill, and the old eagle sure didn't like us being around there close. She'd swoop down at us and try to attack us, scare us away, but it never did, so she was all excited. They don't like you to mess with their nest at all, or even be close to it. Here's our nest again. Got 3 eggs in it. Here she is trying to protect her nest. It's clucking and making a lot of noise. It was fun playing with her, but we needed to go off and go hunting. So here's some bear scat along the way that shows that there are bear there. So there's a sign, and this is trying to cross a little stream there without getting too wet. This is a little fox that was watching us there, and we tried to get a good movie of him. He ran off, and we weren't interested in shooting foxes. We were after bear. But there are an awful lot of foxes on Kodiak Island. Some guy tried to commercially raise foxes on there, and he didn't do too good, and so he ended up letting all those red foxes loose on the island. And here's our plane coming back in to pick us up after 10 days. And he come up, and we'll load up all our gear and get back on the plane and go back to Kodiak. And then we'll ship all our gear back air freight to Anchorage. And then we'll get a commercial flight on Wing Airlines back to Anchorage. That was back before, when they still had a Wing Airlines, this was back in '67. There's the pilot with this Grumman goose. This is taking off again and getting ready to go. Coming back in, here we are in Kodiak again, unloading our gear, getting ready to ship it out. And at the end of a great hunt in Kodiak Island in 1967.